Hi there, and welcome to Committee Corner. I'm Stephanie Hamilton, Manager of Government Relations and Advocacy for NSPE, and I will be your host for episode 6, where we're talking about the House Natural Resources Committee and an April 15th hearing of one of its subcommittees. The House Natural Resources Committee has 48 members, 26 Democrats and 22 Republicans. Congressman Raul Grijalva is the committee chair, and Congressman Bruce Westerman is the ranking member. Just an FYI for those who may not know, Congressman Westerman is a PE, and he was a member of NSPE prior to his election to Congress in 2014. The Natural Resources Committee has jurisdiction over several policy areas, including wildlife, water and oceans, national parks, forests and public lands, energy and mineral resources, indigenous peoples of the United States, oversight and investigations, and something called Insular Affairs, which mostly has to do with US territories like Puerto Rico and American Samoa. As you might have already guessed, it's the committee's oversight of the energy and mineral resources that we're primarily interested in. Its oversight includes policies specific to the oil and gas industry, mining operations, and renewable energies like solar, wind, and geothermal. Electrical, mechanical, civil, and chemical are just a few of the engineering disciplines represented in the energy sector, and we advocate on behalf of all the PEs practicing in those disciplines. In an April 15th hearing, the committee's focus was on this area. Its Energy and Mineral Resources Subcommittee discussed HR 2415, called Creating Jobs and Reducing Pollution by Plugging and Reclaiming Orphan Wells. A little bit of background, an orphan well is any oil or natural gas well that doesn't have a legal owner. And that could be because the business that owned the well has dissolved and is no longer in existence. It could be that it was a privately owned well and has since been abandoned. But either way, the result is that no person or entity is responsible for ensuring that the well is properly plugged and the surrounding area properly restored or remediated. Lori Wartenberry, one of the witnesses at this hearing, testified that her organization, the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission, estimates there are over 69,000 orphan wells in the United States. HR 2415 would require the Secretary of the Interior to establish a program to permanently plug, remediate, and reclaim orphan wells and the surrounding lands, and also to provide funds to state and tribal governments to do the same thing. During the 2-hour hearing, subcommittee members heard from a panel of witnesses representing a variety of interests related to the oil and gas industry. Despite the diversity of backgrounds and interests, the witnesses agreed on several key points. One, that federal funding for plugging orphan wells would provide significant and much needed support to the states and to the organizations they work with. Two, the faster the money can be distributed to the states, the better. And three, that while there are currently about 56,000 documented orphan wells in the United States, the number of undocumented wells is likely to be in the hundreds of thousands. There was, however, some concern with proposed fees in HR 2415. A few of the witnesses expressed concern that the fees could overburden smaller businesses and result in premature closing of oil and gas wells. By the end of the subcommittee hearing, subcommittee members had several recommendations for strengthening HR 2415, including elimination of proposed fees that would be levied against oil and gas companies. Some subcommittee members also doubted the extent of the problem created by orphan wells and questioned whether this was an issue Congress should be spending any time on at all. Despite agreement by the witnesses that HR 2415 could help speed the process of identifying and plugging orphan wells, some subcommittee members unfortunately had and stuck to their own opinions about the need for and the usefulness of this bill. Suffice it to say, we're not sure what's going to happen with HR 2415. It sounds like the author is essentially going to go back to the drawing board. Not start completely over, but definitely make some significant changes. As I mentioned before, it sounds pretty likely that the proposed fees in the original language are going to be eliminated. And it sounds like there may be some additional changes as well. So you can be sure that we're going to be paying attention. We're going to be watching for any amendments or changes to the language, and also be looking for any follow-up hearings or votes. And that's it for our overview of the Natural Resources Committee and the subcommittee hearing on HR 2415. Thanks for tuning in again, and look for another Committee Corner episode next week.